Herzlich willkommen zu dieser Pressekonferenz hier im Auswärtigen Amt. Zunächst wird jetzt der deutsche Außenminister sprechen, dann sein niederländischer Amtskollege. Im Anschluss haben wir Zeit für Fragen, 2 für jede Seite. Ich werde dann
A few questions. Minister. Ladies and gentlemen, dear David, a very warm welcome to you to Berlin. Last night's events demonstrate how challenging the times are for European security in which we meet today. Once again, and this time in significant numbers, Russian attack drones entered Polish airspace last night. Russia has thereby recklessly run the risk of triggering a dangerous escalation. We are analyzing the events of last night in great detail, and we've discussed it in the North Atlantic Council in Brussels, and will deepen that discussion also in the framework of the security consultations under Article 4 of the NATO Treaty that Poland has justly and rightly invoked. We will keep discussing this in Brussels, but also in NATO capitals. However, what the events of last night have shown is that we stand united in NATO and as NATO. In addition to our Polish friends, Romanian and Dutch combat aircraft also guaranteed our security, and my gratitude goes out to the soldiers out there who provide for our security. Deploying Dutch F-35 or German Patriot systems in Poland is more than symbolic, therefore. They are a military necessity for a secure NATO eastern flank, given the threat that Russia poses and that will continue to exist for the foreseeable future. For it is unfortunately obvious that Moscow, even after 3 years have gone by, is not ready to seriously engage for peace. Right, the opposite is the case. Kremlin aims to subjugate Ukraine with all its might. And we will and have to respond in no unclear terms. This includes continuing to resolutely support Ukraine, and this also includes enhancing the pressure through sanctions. We are in total agreement on this. This is our objective with regard to the 19th package of sanctions. Dear David, but your visit comes in a special week also because it is the week in which our ambassadors' conference takes place. Germany's entire diplomatic expertise, so to speak, gathering in one place. One thing is for sure, many of our ambassadors around the globe would wish to have as close bilateral ties and relations with their respective host countries as have the Netherlands and Germany. For we are not only neighbors, but we're friends and closest allies, taking pride in a partnership that is built on trust and reliability. We may be separated by a border on the map. In our daily lives, however, we are not aware of it. This goes for border commuters, for tourists, but also for the flow of goods between both countries. Our people and our economies are intertwined like almost no other two economies in Europe. And politically, too, we are almost always on the same side when it comes to the important subjects of the day. And this is also demonstrated by our unique security political cooperation. The German-Netherlands Corps in Münster, for example, has been a lighthouse project of European defense for 3 decades now. At the same time, both our countries are important trading and export nations. We share a global view, and we are aware that Europe will only remain a strong international actor if it continues to develop its global ties. Foreign trade has therefore long stopped being economic politics only. It is above all a geopolitical instrument, and therefore we agree how important it is to finally conclude the major free trade agreements of the European Union. The Mercosur agreement would create the biggest free trade area in the world at a time in which the headlines of newspapers are often dominated by customs tariffs and trade conflicts. It would provide an urgently required balancing factor. Dear David, our partnership is a strong foundation in a world marked by insecurity, and I look forward to further expanding that foundation with you to the benefit of both our countries, to the benefit of Europe, and for a future of lasting peace and freedom. Thank you very much. Thank you, dear Johan. I'd like to begin in German. Minister, dear Johan, thank you for the cordial reception that has greeted me in Berlin today. My first trip abroad as Foreign Minister has taken me to Germany. How could it be otherwise? The importance that Germany has for the Netherlands cannot be exaggerated. And I'm therefore very pleased that we have had the opportunity today to get to know each other and to discuss our broad and comprehensive cooperation. My colleague Mr. Wadephul and I have discussed in great detail Russia's aggression against Ukraine today, the situation in the Middle East, and important European topics such as the multi-annual financial framework and EU enlargement. In these unstable and difficult times, the relatively new government of Germany has shown leadership inside and outside the European Union. And you have my great admiration for that. And you've done so, always cooperating with your European partners. This is an approach in which the Netherlands too believe, and I'd like to continue in English.
Neighbours and strong partners, bilaterally, in the EU and also within NATO. Our economies and histories are closely intertwined and our armed forces are partially integrated. And this level of cooperation is unprecedented and reflects the high level of mutual trust between our two countries. It also means that when the world shakes, we both feel it. This interdependence doesn't weaken us, it strengthens us, and it compels us to face challenges together. And I firmly believe that cooperation is the only way to navigate the turbulent times that we live in. As mentioned, we discussed Russia's ongoing aggression against Ukraine. This brutal war continues to threaten not just Ukrainian sovereignty, but also the stability and the security of Europe as a whole. And just this morning, as mentioned, multiple drones breached NATO airspace. And as they are designed to do, NATO air defenses successfully defended our territory. These violations are unacceptable and underscore that the Russian threat continues to grow. As said, we will defend every inch of NATO territory, and we cannot accept Russia's actions. And that's why we have to keep asking ourselves, what more can we do to support Ukraine? And I'm proud that both Germany and the Netherlands are amongst the countries leading this effort. In recent weeks, the spotlight has been on security guarantees for Ukraine. And these are essential, both to strengthen Ukraine and to deter future Russian aggression. The first line of defense must be a strong Ukrainian army. And that means we have to continue our military support to Ukraine, both now and in the long run, and investing in the defense industry, both in Ukraine and in Europe. We've also completed the planning process for a future military presence in Ukraine. Within the coalition of the willing, 26 countries, including the Netherlands and Germany, have announced their readiness to help safeguard a future peace. The coalition has developed plans for a military presence and mapped out national contributions and capabilities. But at the same time, we mustn't lose sight of our current efforts. Continued military support remains the most important security guarantee. We have delivered Patriot systems, F-16 fighter jets, tanks, ammunition, and more. And recently, both the Netherlands and Germany joined the NATO-US Prioritized Ukraine Requirements List initiative. We both stepped up and decided to finance our own packages, with the Netherlands contributing 500 million euros, ensuring fast deliveries of urgently needed military equipment and ammunition. Another key topic we touch upon is the devastating situation in the Middle East. The human catastrophe in Gaza continues to worsen, and Hamas has still not released the remaining hostages. We both agree that an immediate ceasefire is needed, alongside the unconditional release of all remaining hostages and a major increase in humanitarian aid. Only then can we move towards a permanent cessation of hostilities. Hamas must lay down its arms. It has no place in the future of the Gaza Strip. We also discuss ways to keep the prospect of a two-state solution alive, particularly in light of Israel's ongoing active settlement policy on the West Bank. And Minister Wadephul and I also discussed important EU issues, in particular the negotiations on the multi-annual financial framework. We believe that the EU must make clear and strategic choices for the next European budget and the Commission's recent proposal falls short in that regard. It allows for a significant increase in the overall budget, as well in national contributions, including those of Germany and the Netherlands, and this needs to be addressed in our view. We also believe that the answer doesn't lie in new common borrowing. What we need instead is a political will and courage to make tough decisions about priorities within the existing budget. We will work close together on topics like competitiveness, asylum, and migration and security and defense in the run-up to the MFF. Before I conclude, let me underline how much the Netherlands values its relationship with Germany. It is one that is rooted in common values and shared interests. An important aspect of that relationship is our cross-border cooperation with states like North Rhine-Westphalia and Lower Saxony. And I was pleased that we held government consultations with North Rhine-Westphalia earlier this year. The mutual visits we make are a testament to the strength and depth of our friendship, and the next one is already on the agenda, and we discussed it earlier. On the 25th of September, our King will visit the German-Netherlands Corps in Münster. Johan, ich danke dich ganz herzlich.
I thank you very much.
Again, very, very soon. Thank you.
Das bringt uns zu den Fragen. Die erste Frage.
Which takes me to the question, Deutsche Welle first question. A question has to do with the drones. Poland, the Netherlands, Germany and Italy helped bring down the drones. Poland has invoked Article 4 of the NATO Treaty. How close are we, given the present dynamic, to Article 5? Given the present stage, I think it has been important that Poland has invoked Article 4, has activated Article 4 of the NATO Treaty, and that we begin to discuss these events. This is indeed a new level to which matters have been taken. Russian drones over a NATO country. Russia has to be aware of the fact that NATO is capable of taking action and that it will respond in order to protect NATO's territory. But given this stage in which we find ourselves, it is above all important that we analyze where we stand, look at what has happened, what the intention was, and that we carefully prepare for a possible repeat. Events have shown that NATO is capable of taking action, that NATO stands united. And that ability to act and to show unity is the best way to deter similar actions, to ensure that NATO's territory will not come under attack.
Vraag voor de Nederlandse minister. Er wordt gesproken van een provocatie, een bedreiging, een test door Poetin. Hoe beoordeelt u wat er gebeurd is boven het NAVO-luchtruim?
So I don't know how good your Dutch is, Johan, but
not as good as your German, unfortunately.
I will answer it in English, so we can have the translation also pick up the answer. It was, how do we evaluate what happened last night? Well, if this was indeed an intentional breach of the sovereignty of NATO territory by Russia, then this really deserves a very clear answer. First of all, I'm glad to see that NATO works. That NATO air defenses, including the Dutch F-35s, were able to quickly defend our territory. I fully support the Polish request for Article 4 consultations. I think in light of these new developments, those are warranted. And then we'll have to analyze the situation very carefully and think about what the next steps and reactions of NATO might be.
Die nächste Frage kommt von
Next question, Mr. Ratz from Reuters. Thank you. A question to both of you, if I may, regarding the Middle East. EU Commission President von der Leyen announced that she would submit new proposals on sanctions for Israel, stop payments, for example, for Israel. What is the position of the German government given the events of yesterday, and what is the Dutch position, the position of the Dutch government? Well, we listened to the words of the Commission President, her speech. We and the EU Commission agree that Israel's warfare in Gaza is not acceptable and that threats of annexation cannot be the right response. In her speech, the President of the Commission indicated that she wants to engage in dialogue with the Member States in her attempt to find an answer. We're waiting for her to do that. We are part of that dialogue, and by the way, we are engaging in that dialogue on possible measures on a continuing basis via the EU foreign ministers, that is. Allow me to use this opportunity to once again outline the position of the German government on the attack in Qatar. Israel's attack in Doha is not acceptable. It has violated Qatar's territorial sovereignty and threatens everyone's efforts to bring about the release of the hostages. Qatar, and Germany is aware of that and acknowledges this, plays a crucial role in efforts to achieve a ceasefire and the release of the hostages. I urge that everything possible be done right now so that a ceasefire can finally be reached and the hostages can return to their families. And one thing remains clear: it is up to Hamas to lay down arms and abandon terror against the State of Israel. This current escalation, too, is yet another outcome of Hamas' terrorist attack on Israel on the 7th of October 2023.
Let me fully subscribe that last statement on the proposals made by the President of the European Commission. Let's be clear that the Dutch government supports Israel's right to self-defense after the attacks that happened on the 7th of October 2023. But Israel needs to adhere to international humanitarian law. At the moment, the situation in Gaza is very dire. We also see movements in recognizing or approving settlements in the E1 area on the West Bank and threats of further annexation in the West Bank. We believe that that deserves an appropriate answer from Europe and the EU, so we look forward to these consultations in the Foreign Affairs Council.
That brings us to the last question. Apologies for the pronunciation of your name in advance. Nijnke van Verschoor.
Thank you. Herr Wadephul, ich habe noch eine Frage.
Minister Wadephul, a question regarding the drones. Russian drones have also appeared over Germany as surveillance drones, that is. Your colleague, Mr. Pistorius, said that one cannot do very much against these drones. Is there a coordinated approach now how to respond to Russian drones over NATO territory? And when would, for example, Germany be called upon to bring down such a surveillance drone? Should an event similar to what we've witnessed in Poland last night were to take place, of course we would be entitled to defend our German airspace appropriately. On a more general note, we are trying to, or in the process of clarifying the legal situation so that we can respond to such drones through electronic measures or other measures. We cannot allow that such an abuse of our airspace takes place or a violation of our airspace takes place. For us, it's not always easy to delineate or distinguish between where internal and security ends and external security begins. So we have to clarify the definition. We've also set up a National Security Council, as you may be aware. And one of its purposes is to ensure that we can better tackle hybrid attacks of the kind that we've witnessed of late, coordinating the federal level with the various lender levels of the individual states in Germany and their security authorities. The attack on Poland or the incident in Poland goes to show that we have to speed up that process so that we have the legal basis for action, but also to have the technical means that are required to respond. This ends today's press conference. Thank you for your interest.